You find a solid oak door bolted from the inside, undisturbed windows, and absolute silence. You force the lock, expecting to find a secure space. Instead, you uncover a horrific crime scene with no trace of how the killer escaped. In the freezing spring of 1922, on a remote Bavarian farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck, 6 people vanished into that exact impossible scenario. This diagram illustrates the physical contradiction investigators found. Days before the murders, the patriarch, Andreas Gruber, noticed tracks in the snow leading directly from the forest to the farm, but there were no return tracks. A value of +1 entered the perimeter, and 0 left. In thermodynamics, we call this an isolated system, a perfectly closed environment where no energy or matter can enter or escape. The German police were staring at an equation that balanced on paper, yet left an entire family dead. A human being of flesh and blood breached a secure perimeter and altered its state permanently, yet they were nowhere to be found when the system was finally opened. To solve a paradox like this, we have to look past the blood and dissect the fatal flaws in the architecture of isolation itself. If we strip away the local folklore and analyze the physical mechanics of the Hinterkaifeck property, a very clear structural vulnerability emerges. This architectural blueprint highlights the building's continuous attic crawl spaces that ran directly over the entirety of the living quarters. This is a complete structural blind spot. By occupying this overhead dead zone, an intruder secured complete, undetected audio and visual surveillance over the family below. In the days leading up to the murders, the household began to fracture. Keys vanished from their hooks. Unfamiliar newspapers appeared on the porch. Heavy footsteps echoed through the ceiling boards late at night. The intruder weaponized the building's geometry. They mapped the structural voids to live as an undetected virus inside a host organism. When a household experiences such blatant signs of a home invasion, the logical response is to flee or alert the authorities. The Grubers did neither. The human brain utilizes a defense mechanism known as normalcy bias. It actively downplays the probability of a catastrophe, rationalizing terrifying anomalies, like footsteps in the attic, as mundane events, like a settling roof. But the Grubers were also trapped by a phenomenon known as the captive mind. They were an insular family, ostracized by their neighbors due to rumors of cruelty and incest. Their shameful secrets created a culture of extreme paranoia. They had built an isolated reality for themselves, and they were far more terrified of inviting the outside community into their home than they were of the strange noises inside it. This deep psychological isolation provided the perfect shield. The family was so consumed by their own internal terrors that they ignored the physical threat lurking literally 3 inches above their heads. For 40 years, the Munich police operated under the assumption that the killer committed the massacre and immediately fled into the night to avoid capture. Decades later, modern forensic reconstruction shattered that timeline. Eyewitness accounts revealed that neighbors saw smoke rising from the farmhouse chimney days after the estimated time of death. Look at this photograph of the livestock pens. While the family lay dead, someone maintained the routine, methodically feeding and tending to these surviving cattle. We see the same chilling domesticity here in the kitchen. The killer baked bread, ate meals at this table, and comfortably utilized the home's resources, living among the corpses for nearly a week. The core of the locked room mystery flips entirely. The killer used those bolts to secure his own privacy, turning the family's home into a private stage for a week-long simulation of normalcy. Despite thousands of pages of police testimonies, the intruder's identity remains a total void. They escaped justice entirely, leaving an unbalanced mathematical equation that remains unsolved a century later. Today, we construct our own isolated systems. We install smart locks, build gated perimeters, and secure our networks, convinced we have total control over our environment. Hinterkaifeck demonstrates that walls are only as secure as the occupant's awareness. Even the most reinforced system fails if the intruder is already inside the perimeter. The most impenetrable fortress becomes a trap the second an intruder learns to inhabit your structural and psychological blind spots. Right now, as you sit in your own secure room, perfectly convinced of your privacy, ask yourself if you are truly alone. A lock provides a sense of safety, but it cannot protect you from a presence that has already settled into the shadows above your head.